Okay, so for our vocabulary section, we need a definition over here, right? I don't know why we use the word salient words to use to describe the atmosphere and the characters in these stories, but we're going to fill out the chart below and then just think about the same word creates a totally different nuance or feeling or meaning depending on who is speaking. And so what I first need you to do is I need you to make sure that you have these definitions for the words. So inevitable, you need to type this in this box, okay? If that wasn't clear. Inevitable is certain to happen, impossible to avoid. Monstrous, terrifying, cruel, or unnatural. I'm going to pause as you get those down. Okay. Tribute, a payment or sacrifice by someone in power. A tribute, payment or sacrifice, demanded by someone in power. I always think of Hunger Games where she's like, I volunteer as tribute. Anyway, that's probably the most modern example that we have of a tribute. Invincible, not to be mistaken with the show, but impossible to defeat or to overcome. And then cunning, clever in a strategic or sneaky way. So that is our definitions. You need to make sure you have that. Now over here, you're going to look at each of these four main characters in the stories, our two protagonists and our two antagonists, and you're going to tell me based on the word, do they have a positive, negative, or neutral connotation with that person? And then explain why you think that. And so I've done the first row for you. So Theseus has he thinks, right, it's positive because he believes that beating the Minotaur is his destiny. So he has a positive relationship with the word inevitable because he thinks it is inevitable for him to beat the Minotaur. And guess what? He is correct. Sammy's perspective is negative because he thinks that the bullying is inevitable. It will never stop. He will never be able to avoid it, and it's never going to stop. And it leads him to creating the Golomedo, right? Minos's perspective is also a positive one like this Theseus, but for a different reason, right? Because in his head, he thinks that Athens will always obey him. It is inevitable that I will always be the ruler of Athens. They will always listen to what I have to say. And then the bully's perspective is also positive because they believe that Sammy will always be weak and they will always have control over Sammy. Okay, now I could see you making that a negative aspect because you think it's negative, but it's from the bully's perspective. They don't think what they're doing is bad. They are perfectly okay with it. If someone came to them and said, you've caused this kid to basically create a monster, they would be like, shocked by your comment. So now you're going to do the same thing with monstrous, the same thing with tribute, the same thing with invincible, and the same thing with cunning. Okay, and then we have an RTQT down here at the bottom. Looking at the chart above with the vocabulary, write 2 to 3 sentences to prove that the meaning of a hero or monster depends entirely on who is watching them. How does a word like cunning feel like a cheat to a villain, but a lifesaver to a hero like Theseus? And the same thing here with inevitable. Like, I kind of already talked about it. Like, they view it in a completely different way than Sammy. Sammy's hurting for it, whereas he is not. And then even like the perspective of Theseus and Minos, like they have a completely different view of inevitable. They both view it as positive, but for different reasons. One for controlling, one for defeating the control or something along those lines. Now, we'll see how this goes through this week. This might be, obviously Tuesday, Wednesday assignment for this week, but then also, by the time you get to this video, you're going to be almost done, but I would assume we'll see how much we get through Friday, and this might have to move into Monday as well, which is perfectly fine. It's planned for weeks 34 and 35. I have other assignments, but I want us to make sure that we do this and we do this right. And trust me, I understand that these two middle sections are the more challenging ones. So as always, if you have questions and need help with any of it, they're fill in the blanks, so let me know. I can help you. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Bye, everybody.